Today we journey into the haunting archives of 1947 Iowa, a year that witnessed a chilling and unsolved murder that has stymied investigators for over 7 decades. We'll navigate the shadows of this bygone era to shed light on a crime that continues to defy resolution. This is the story of Margaret Treese. In 1947, Iowa found itself at a pivotal juncture in American history, marked by a combination of post-war adjustments, economic transformations, and societal shifts. The aftermath of World War II significantly influenced the economic landscape, as Iowa, like the rest of the nation, transitioned from wartime production to peacetime pursuits. The Hawkeye State experienced a period of economic recovery and growth, fueled in part by the demand for agricultural products during the war. Margaret Treese, 36, who claimed to be a war widow, appeared to have moved to Iowa after divorcing her second husband. Born in West Virginia to Joseph W. Martin and his wife Flora, little is known about Margaret's early life. At the time of her death, Margaret had recently divorced Stanley Domkiewicz. The couple had married in October 1945 in West Virginia, but separated shortly thereafter when he found out she had been previously married. Margaret moved frequently and resided in several western states before settling in Iowa. Although she had been in Iowa just a few short months, she had found a job at a local laundry and was living with a male friend at the run-down Standard Hotel at 712 West 2nd Street in Davenport's Skid Row. On Tuesday morning, September 30th, at Credit Island Public Park, Howard Whitbeck and Orville Crow, 2 park employees, were on their way to work at 7:40 a.m. when they spotted something at the southwest corner of the park entrance. 5 feet south of a grove of evergreen trees, in full view of cars passing by, was the body of a woman. Police Chief Reed Phillips and Detective Captain Harold Thorson took charge of the scene. Their initial investigation found tire marks in the wet grass that indicated the young woman had been driven to the park. Her clothing was in tatters and scattered over a 20-foot area. The nude, badly disfigured, tattooed young woman was removed to the Everson and Anderson mortuary in Davenport for autopsy, which revealed she was hit on the head with a blunt object, stabbed 19 times in the chest and abdomen, and repeatedly run over with a car. Both lungs were punctured, and she had incurred a fractured skull, broken ribs, and severe body bruising. She had not been raped. Very uncommon for the time, she was heavily tattooed, with names, a social security number, and patterns on both arms and both legs. A chest tattoo revealed the name Stanley with True Love written underneath and an elaborate snake with barred fangs. Other designs included a cross with the words Rock of Ages and the phrase Bill and Ezzy. This led her case to be dubbed the Tattoo Murder Case. Within hours of her disappearance, Clarence "Red" Saunders, who had heard about the body being found, contacted police and identified the body as that of his roommate, Margaret Treese. Margaret was known as a regular at the taverns on Skid Row, especially in the 400 block of West 2nd Street, and police began interviewing 60 individuals, mostly men, who were in Margaret's social circle. There were a handful of them she appeared to have been romantically involved with. Saunders told police they were already in bed when Margaret got up and told him she was going to a tavern in the 600 block of West 2nd Street and would be back in about 15 minutes. At about 10 p.m., Margaret arrived at Bush's Tavern at 410 West 2nd Street. She was in a jovial mood, dancing and accepting drinks from men. After being repeatedly told that dancing was not allowed, at 12:30 a.m. on Tuesday morning, Margaret was ordered out of the bar. It does not appear she went to any other bars on the block. Witnesses would later report she was seen getting into a car with 3 men. This would be the last time Margaret would be seen alive. While not seriously considered a suspect, Saunders, 42, was questioned and eventually taken to Chicago to undergo a lie detector test, even though there was no evidence against him. He was a tree trimmer, and he and Margaret had lived together in the Standard Hotel since May, when she had arrived in town from Grand Island, Nebraska. Saunders had first met Margaret in Cheyenne, Wyoming in December 1946, and saw her again in Denver in February 1947. He did have a criminal history, having been in jail in both Colorado and Nebraska for robbery. He was eventually cleared of any involvement. Pete Peterson, 55, was also questioned. He worked as a carpenter building milk houses on a nearby farm and had formerly lived in a rooming house on Skid Row. He was acquainted with Margaret, and while he denied having anything to do with her death, he did claim she robbed him of between $50 and $60. His alibi was solid, as he was found to have been working at the Elmer Johansson farm during the time of the murder. It is worth noting that Peterson was labeled in reports of the time as a former mental patient. While technically accurate, this characterization stems from a brief stay at St. John's Hospital for mental patients in June 1944, following his report of a knife attack by 3 men. It appears that the newspapers of the time sensationalized this fact for their benefit. In October, a newspaperman in Moline received a letter that contained promising clues. While police theorized it was someone taking revenge on the suspect named in the letter, they had to check it out. The suspect, identified only as a Moline hat shop owner, presented an airtight alibi and was quickly cleared. Margaret was returned to Cumberland, West Virginia for burial on Friday, October 3, 1947. Her grave is unmarked in the New Cumberland Cemetery. The August 1948 attack of Betty Owens, 25, was eerily similar to Margaret's. Betty had gone to a riverside park in Davenport with 26-year-old Robert Brungart. When she resisted his advances, he severely beat her and tore off her clothing. Brungart was charged in this case, but denied being involved in Margaret's case. In 1956, Margaret's case was reopened when an unidentified Moline woman came forward to say she had seen Margaret just a few hours before her death in a car with 2 men. The woman told Police Chief Harvey Smith that the 2 men she saw were known police figures whom she could identify. The woman, a former barmaid at several Skid Row bars, was well acquainted with Margaret. She had been sitting on a bench at Washington Square Park with her uncle the night Margaret went missing, when she saw the 3 drive by in an old model car in the direction of Credit Island. Chief Smith felt it possible these 2 men had already been questioned and eliminated, but wanted all the evidence in the case re-examined. This lead, like so many others, would not produce results. The murder of Margaret Treese is a chilling reminder of the unresolved questions that linger in the shadows of our past, and the truth behind her tragic death continues to elude us. Police never ascertained a motive for Margaret's murder, and no one was ever charged. The perpetrator, or perpetrators, are likely dead. Until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, and may the truth reveal itself in the shadows.